So, Brenton, let's talk about birthright citizenship. I'm sure a lot of folks have seen this in the news lately with Trump wanting to destroy birthright citizenship. Where did this come from?
Right. So, well, birthright citizenship, the idea of it comes from the 1860s when the 14th Amendment was ratified in the Constitution. And it said that all persons born or naturalized in the United States are basically citizens. And since then, we've had cases that have come up and said that relates not only to people that were born of citizens from the United States, but also people that were born from illegal immigrants. So people come in, they may be here on a work visa, may just be visiting friends and family, but if they have a child that was born in the United States, because they were born on the soil, they became citizens.
Well, and to be clear, so the 1860s, obviously Civil War, and so this was an answer as to what to do with the liberated slaves.
That's correct. That's correct. It was also part of after the Civil War, there were Civil War amendments, is what we call them. And they were the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th Amendment, or excuse me, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And what they basically did was they tried to say, look, these slaves who were slaves and are now freed have rights. And part of that is the right to citizenship. And so what it was rebuke of the Dred Scott case saying, look, these individuals are citizens. So that was really the foundation of why we have the 14th Amendment, but it also extended to individuals much beyond those that were slaves or descendants of slaves.
Well, and generally, when we're talking about the 14th Amendment, at least from a legal context, historically, we're generally talking about like state and federal powers and due process and that sort of stuff. So this is an interesting clause that all persons born or naturalized. That's what we're really focusing in on, is this little clause in the 14th Amendment. And so our understanding from reporting is that Trump, and from his own statements, he wants that to not be the case. It's been a Republican talking point for a long time, a derogatory term that they call anchor babies, the idea that an illegal immigrant family can come here, have a child, and as long as the child is born on U.S. soil, then the child is a citizen, but not the undocumented family.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And where it gets to and what they're trying to do is they're trying to change law based off of what they see. And their concept and belief is that if we make it so that way individuals who are born here can't just become citizens, that we then prevent individuals from having incentives in coming into the United States, right? So they think that it will draw down on the number of immigrants that cross or try to cross into the United States because they don't think that they can create children who will then be American citizens and be able to get access to advantages of what being an American citizen affords you.
So what they're wanting to do, it sounds like, is create a permanent underclass of people who would have been born here and be the citizen of nowhere, perpetually stuck in this country, not able to access resources. It sounds very Orwellian to me. And I think when we saw the fires in France, this has been, a decade ago, when the Arabic community was rioting from the North African French colonies because they were stuck. They could never be French citizens. This didn't go well for France. Why do we think it will go well for us?
Right. Well, and that's exactly it. And that's what a lot of scholars are saying, is that you're saying that you want to decrease the number of illegal immigrants, but if you actually do change birthright citizenship, you probably will create a lot more illegal aliens or undocumented citizens because you take away that status. And what does that do to states? What does that do to cities and counties and individuals, especially when you don't have a real way and procedure of how to put this into practice? So that's what the Supreme Court just recently on May 15th heard this case, and they were the United States is trying to actually take away what's called a nationwide injunction, which is an order from a court saying that nationwide they cannot look to try to end birthright citizenship. And even though the executive branch doesn't have the ability to do so, it doesn't mean that they can't put policies in place to try to encourage that there no longer be individuals that have access to the citizenship capabilities. And so what they were really arguing was that no one should be able to keep the whole government from being able to incorporate this, but there are a lot of problems that come into play when you do that.
Well, because you would have different rulings from different judges and different things happening and irreparable harm. I mean, this is a system that has worked really well for a really long time, and you're trying to create, all of this is the end pursuit of this Orwellian future where these people have no rights and they have no ability to access things that we all take for granted. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. And then obviously the legal interests are interesting, because if you remove the injunction, then you're going to have chaos amongst the states, because then somebody born in Texas would never be able to be a citizen, but if they were born in Maine, that they would be able to be a citizen. And then you have a conflict. We've never had a conflict as whether or not somebody born in one state is a citizen versus not in another state.
That's right. So states won't know how to react, and people that have these children won't know what to do. They'll be told that they don't have a right to federal benefits and they won't have a social security number for their baby, but they really will be allowed to have a social security number for the laws that are applied today. It's just because the executives don't want them to. So now they're going to think that they don't have the right to receive things like Medicaid when they really can. And states, which are the ones that are supposed to be giving out the Medicaid and just being reimbursed by the government, won't know how to act. And hospitals themselves, it's not like they know how to tell if someone is a citizen or not. So how are they going to do it? Are they going to racially profile people? So it's this really big deal that the government's trying to say, look, we shouldn't have our hands tied. But then when the courts asked, they said, well, what is your plan? How is this going to be impacted? How are the states and these hospitals and these mothers and families going to be able to circumvent these issues that we're talking about now? And they're like, oh, they'll figure it out. That's quite a lot to do, especially when you're trying to overturn over 200 years of precedent. It's quite something to ask for.
Well, it's not even 200 years of precedent. It's black letter in the Constitution. This is what the Constitution says. The hypocrisy of the pro-life department, of the pro-life movement, trying to deprive these people of life, because that's what we're talking about, is if you are not a citizen and you're trapped in a country and you can never be a citizen, you will not have a life. This is a pro-birth standpoint. It is a pro-chaos standpoint, and it is against the black letter of the Constitution. And again, you do not have to be a constitutional scholar to read the 14th Amendment. I encourage many of our members of Congress to read the Constitution from time to time.
That would help.
Welcome to the Ring of Fire YouTube channel. I am Farron Cousins, the host of Ring of Fire here on YouTube. I don't know if this is your first time here, or maybe you're somebody who comes here every single day, but either way, let me tell you what's going on. Ring of Fire was actually started in the year 2004 by none other than our own America's lawyer, Mike Papantonio. And over the last 20 plus years, Ring of Fire has gone from being a 1-hour weekend radio program on Air America through a series of changes. Go Left TV, which we started back in 2007. We've been on the Young Turks network. And of course, this very YouTube channel here that started, obviously, as they all do, with no subscribers. And we've now ballooned to well over 1 million as we go on our way to that 2 million mark. So again, if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. Take a few minutes, look around. We have content that actually goes back 20 years. So there's lots to see, there's lots to do. And trust me, with the next 4 years of Donald Trump getting back in office, we will be here every day, every single day, with fresh content for you to keep you informed about what's happening and, of course, to warn you of the potential dangers that Donald Trump poses as we approach his second term.